as a dad, do you want to leave the world in a better place? And I was working my ass off so financially I can leave my kids in a great position. The world absolutely is, if we don't continue to act, it's going to be not the same world at all. Glaciers are melting. I got to climb Mount Kilimanjaro 20 years ago. It's going to be melting. You're not going to go there. Great Barrier Reef, probably gone in the next 10 years. Like, serious issues. You go to Japan now and Beijing, I think you can actually get flying taxis to like 5 different locations around the city. Because traffic sucks, right? This is the funny thing about like wealthy people. Like, yeah, we've got a place down in Florida and the beach is gone. I had one guy, like massively wealthy guy's like, well, I went to buy my favourite wine and they said it's not available this year because they can't grow it in the same spot. I was like, that's quite inconvenient. You're like, yeah, poor you, buddy. Like,
a lot of people these days say, I'm going to die soon, so like, who cares about the earth? That's a next generation's problem.
Yeah.
Right? And earlier you mentioned you're doing it for your kids.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Again, we live in a selfish world. I say this a lot. Like, we live in a very selfish world. Like, people genuinely don't care.
Yeah.
Be it, the Earth's health,
Yeah.
be it other people's feelings. Like, people genuinely don't care about anything these days.
Sure.
Very selfish-centric. You'd agree with that, right?
Yeah.
So what would you say to those people that are like, you know what, I'm going to die soon anyway. That's a problem for the next generation.
How soon? Like, we went down and got a cup of coffee before. How many litres of water do you think it makes to make a cup of coffee?
How many litres of water?
Yeah.
Cup of coffee?
Yeah. Just one cup of coffee, how many litres of water to grow?
Yeah, you got to incorporate the beans, right?
Oh,
Yeah.
I would not have a clue then. No.
140 litres of water is required to make one cup of coffee.
Really?
Yeah. So I'm saying as an example of someone who likes to drink my coffee, right? I like chocolate, I like wine, I like to travel, like all these things that motivate me, like absolutely for my kids. And I want like as a dad, you want to leave the world in a better place. And I was working my ass off so financially I can leave my kids in a great position. Like, worked it off, like nailed it. I'm not massively wealthy, but privileged and lucky enough. Great. I'm a good dad. I've got to spend time with them, good relationship with them. Great. But the world absolutely is, if we don't act, if we don't continue to act, it's going to be not the same world at all. Like, glaciers are melting. I got to climb Mount Kilimanjaro 20 years ago. It's going to be melting. You're not going to go there. Great Barrier Reef, probably gone in the next 10 years. Like, serious issues. And I don't care what motivates people. Everyone's going to have a moment. There was a bit of a joke on the Onion News, I don't know if you've seen it. Like, it was like, the average American needs to be personally impacted by the environment every 14 minutes to care. And it's a stupid joke, but it's the reality, right? Because, you walk around every day, you're like, oh my God, there's a bushfire and a flood and a storm, and look at the sea level rising. Like, but I tell you what, you got to try to insure your house. You've got beach houses. This is the funny thing about like wealthy people. Like, I've traveled the world and they're like, oh, yeah, we've got a place down in Florida and the beach is gone. Or had one guy, like massively wealthy guy's like, well, I went to to buy my favourite wine and they said it's not available this year because they can't grow it in the same spot. I was like, that's quite inconvenient. You're like, yeah, poor you, buddy. Like, but all these, everything, right? Everything, food security, all the things. What do you like? Whatever food you like, rice. 20% of the world's calories is in rice, right? And talk about feeding Indonesia. Massive water issues, massive methane release, like massive insect issues of actually when climate changes. Like, small changes could have horrific effects. And the key thing again is we're saying make small changes, and those small changes are racing against the tipping points of the environment. So that the Antarctica is like masses of ice. People go, yeah, it's a lot of snow, right? People think it's like Perisher or something, right? Or it's like not. It's a whole massive island of thick ice. And the tundra in Siberia has been frozen for like hundreds of years. And this is the big debate we can get to about the world's temperature has always been changing. But like, it's been frozen for thousands of years and has so much methane caught up into it. If that thaws, it's going to release like so much methane that'll actually like it's irreversible, because you can't just rethaw Siberia, right? You can't rethaw Antarctica. So all those things are actually tipping points that we're just trying to defend against. And the key thing I come back to is we're not saying stop all progress, stop living your life, stop eating and doing other good things, just make changes. Can we make sustainable coffee? Absolutely. I love travel. I turned 50 this year. I had a big goal to get to 50 countries before I turned 50. I'm at 48. Air travel, like, massively expensive for the environment. Should I stop doing that? Yes, until we get sustainable aviation fuel. So I offset it until we get to that, right? And there's times when I'm clearly being a bit of a hypocrite with that, but I spend my day trying to work on solutions so we can back to your point, no one has to wake up and go, I better go bankrupt and not eat food so I can make it buy my bamboo based t-shirt, right? But maybe don't buy 5 t-shirts a year just because it's got a cool slogan on it. Like maybe buy 3. Like just like modifications towards that, if that makes sense.
Is there like work to actually make flying sustainable?
Absolutely.
Like, it's actually happening
Qantas
right
has
now?
got a $400 million fund, like massive efforts going into this. Sustainable aviation fuel and electric planes. Like you go to Japan now, and Beijing, I think you can actually get flying taxis to like 5 different locations around the city because
Okay.
traffic sucks, right? You're like,
okay.
hey, you can get flying taxis. They are like cheaper than jumping into a petrol car. Like they're amazing. Autonomous vehicles. So many cars are out there just driving around the road looking for parking. Like there's all these things that are absolutely coming around. Sustainable aviation fuel, whether it's biofuels and all these other things, Australia's actually leading the way. We're doing some incredible work in that area. There's a great company, Kite Magnetics, down in Melbourne, making electric planes for medium length flights. Like they are just, again, some great technologies. We can solve it. We totally can solve it. This is why I get optimistic about it. Try not to, like I have a goal, less than 5% on the problem, right? And I know we've been focusing a little bit on the problem here, but we can go and solve it. Like if it's an emergency, if there was a legitimate emergency, like right now, if it was like, oh my God, there's a fire, we'd all react to it, right? The issue is the narrative, and I was an ex-marketing guy, so in 2050, the temperature is going to go up 2 degrees. Like talk about your like selfish, I don't care problem. That's a long way away.
And
At 2 degrees, like,
seemingly small.
tiny. But if my child has a 2-degree fever, you take him might take him to the hospital, right? Like what does that genuinely mean? And 2050, we're screwed by 2050. We either solve it now or it doesn't matter. And I think to your point around energy, is that the real thing? So much effort's going to energy. I think that's actually, we're on a really good trajectory. We've got to start investing in carbon capture and storage. We've got to invest in adaptation and resilience and natural capital biodiversity.